Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Google Analytics Fundamental Series presented by Humanlytics. My name is Bill Su. I'm the CEO for Humanlytics, and I'm going to be your host for this video today. Today, we're going to shift gear a little bit, moving from setting up Google Analytics to actually analyzing data with the data provided by Google Analytics. But before actually going into Google Analytics UI, we're going to introduce with you some of the analytics frameworks that we use at Humanlytics to help you make your analytics more actionable. More specifically, we're going to introduce to you two things. One is a customer journey framework that we use at Humanlytics in our app, actually, to help you understand and map out how you're doing in variety aspect of your customer journey. And then the second part of this video is going to show you an action framework on how you can take action based on this customer journey map you created in the first step. This is something that's really important because even though customer journey has been probably one of the most popular topic in marketing for the past 5 to 10 years, when you go online, you rarely see a tutorial or a guide that shows you how to map your metric to different aspects of customer journey, nor they show you how you can take action based on this mapping if it's created. And we want to fill this gap with this video. So I'm really excited to get started. Hope you are as well. And let's dig into it. To talk about customer journey, we must first define what a customer journey is. We're going to use the definition of McKinsey here to enlighten us a little bit. McKinsey says that the customer journey is a complete sum of experiences that customers go through when they're interacting with your company or brand. So instead of just looking at one part of the transaction or experience, it documents the full experience of being a customer with your brand. It's a slightly vague term, but to put in the context of web presence or e-commerce store, the customer journey starts with the customer seeing your brand, either your ad or your organic reach, through one of the rented platforms, usually Facebook, Google Search. Those are the popular ones. All the way until they make a decision to make a purchase and then come back and make repeated purchase, if you want to count that as part of analysis as well. So in terms of web presence, in terms of customer journey for web presence, it's usually divided into 4 primary steps, at least in our perspective. First of all, it starts with acquisition. So the customer have to see your brand somewhere and have to be interested enough to visit your website and even consider purchasing, right? So that step we call acquisition. And then when they land on your website, you know that you have their attention. You want to further hook them in. You want to use your content to make them stick around and have a potential converting. And that second stage is called engagement. And the final stage is conversion, which is either buying a product or filling out a lead form on your website. But that describes a session-by-session journey. And right now, a customer journey, especially in the past couple of years, has become a lot more complex. And customers usually do not make a purchase on their first visit. They usually make a purchase on their second or third visit, or even more than that. That's why we introduced a step called retention, which talks about getting your customer to come back to visit your website again, getting your customer to come back to engage your website again. And if they have previously converted, make them come back and convert again. This is actually I think there's a research done that 30 to 40% of e-commerce store revenue actually come from repeat purchases. So the retention step, often overlooked, but it's very important. So we're going to go into each of these steps. We divide each of these steps into 3 sub-steps. There might be repeating steps throughout these parts of the journey. That's why we don't call this a funnel, we call this a journey, as engagement conversion are not as clearly connected with each other as it may seem. Same thing for retention. So just bear with us. So the first part is acquisition. Once again, it's getting your customer to visit your website. We consider acquisition in 3 different stages. The first stage is making your first impression. And that is measured usually by impression on rented platforms. So your impression on Facebook, your impression on AdWords, your impression on keywords. on Google search. To get more customers make the first impression, what you can do is by increasing exposure or spend more money on existing channels. After making the first impression, after seeing your ad, customers then make a decision to visit your website. And the amount of website visits is measured by classical metrics, sessions, or users. To facilitate customer action from the impression to visiting your website, you must optimize existing channels. So that include optimizing your ad copies on Facebook, doing SEO so your keyword presence is more, and then your keyword is very relevant to what you're doing, and anything as such. After visiting your website, it's not enough because for most websites, 50% of the traffic are what we call bounce traffics. They come onto a website, they see nothing of interest to them, and they leave. So customer must become interested in your website to exit this acquisition stage to be considered acquired. And this is measured by what we call valid sessions, which is essentially sessions without bounces. To improve your session without bounces, what you can do is optimize your landing page. So customer understand exactly what they are getting from your website and what you're offering. After a customer have engaged in a valid session, we consider that the end of the acquisition phase. Then we move into the next phase, which is engagement. The first step of engagement starts with become interested in your website, which is a repeat metric, but it serves as a baseline for the amount of customers have entered the stage. And then after decide not to bounce on your website, the customer must become engaged with your content. They must visit multiple pages. They must stay on your website for a long enough duration because that's needed for them to visit multiple pages and end up deciding to convert. So we have additional stages called becoming engaged with your content. And this is usually measured by the number of sessions that meets a certain page view or a duration criteria. The way we make our customers stay longer is we can optimize selected web pages that's other than the landing page. We'll see which page customer exiting or a lot on, so we can optimize that page to make sure that there's nothing technically challenging for customer to view that website. Or if there's a content that's missing that customer can't look and they leave, you might want to consider adding a certain content on your website, which is essentially the content audit part of your website. And then finally, they need to perform some engagement actions, such as signing up for a newsletter, watching a video, or anything as such. This is a clear indication that this customer has become engaged. And this is something that we call engagement conversion, which is in Google Analytics, one of the goals that you will set up in one of the future sessions that we discussed. The way you can improve engagement actions is by optimizing the amount of engagement action steps you have on your website. This could include adding some new engagement actions or optimizing your current engagement actions so it becomes more obvious on your website and you prompt customer to actually click on those actions and perform them. The central part of engagement conversion is you usually obtain some sort of information about your customers that makes you able to repeatedly send some additional information to them, even if they're not on your website, either through remarketing or through accumulation of an email list. So engagement action is actually more important. It's becoming more and more important in modern conversion journey, just because you need to find a way for you to stay relevant in front of the eyes of your customers if they decide not to convert, because they see thousands of messages every single day. And even if they become engaged with your website, if you don't re-engage with them, they simply forget. So this step, often overlooked, very important. After talking about engagement, let's talk about the last step, which is conversion. To us, conversion only means getting users who are engaged on your website to take action. This might include having a call to action button placed on your website so they can enter the conversion funnel and complete the conversion funnel, and also include improving your conversion funnel so there are less drop-offs. In many other cases, many other companies might include engagement into the conversion step. For us, we do not recommend doing that because it is unclear what action you can take when you see you have a lower conversion rate. You need to both improve your engagement, which is optimizing your website, and conversion, which is optimizing your conversion funnel and optimizing where the call to action are placed and designed on your website. Two very distinctive steps. That's why we separate them out. So talking about conversion, it begins with the baseline of the amount of people who are engaged with your content. And after they become engaged, they decide to enter the conversion funnel. This could be clicking on the checkout button. This could be clicking on a lead form, anything as such. The amount of people entering checkout funnel are measured by the amount of sessions that have entered checkout funnel, which is pretty obvious. And to get more people to enter the checkout funnel or the conversion funnel, what you can do is to optimize where the entrances are, optimize the frequency they appear on your website, optimize whether the content alignment with what the call to action are asking for, anything as such. And after entering the conversion funnel, customers will start doing things such as entering their payment method, entering their shipping method, anything as such. And people may drop out in between. That's why there will be a difference between the number of people entering the conversion funnel and the number of people who are completing the conversion funnel. And if you're an e-commerce company, this percentage is actually pretty huge. So in the final step, when they actually complete, you will measure something that we call the number of completed conversion, or if you're in e-commerce, it's called revenue. And the way you improve this step of the customer journey is by optimizing the conversion funnel itself. Because we already know that they're interested, they want to buy, but then they somehow dropped off, which means that there are something that you didn't do well throughout the funnel that are making a large portion of people leave. So after here, people have converted. They have decided to purchase. Are we done? No, we're not. Because first of all, a lot of customers on their first visit will stop at the engagement stage and not go into the conversion stage at all. And there's nothing you can do because their attention span are limited, they are distracted, they're simply not ready to make a decision, anything as such. That's why you need to go to the fourth part of our customer journey, which is retention, which look at your entire customer journey in the perspective of a user making repeated visits. So first, for the retention step, we start with visiting your website. So this is the total amount of users that have ever visited your website from any platform. So you can improve that by optimizing rented platforms, spending more money on it, anything as such. And then you look into the amount of people who have become engaged with your website, the amount of people who have passed that threshold for session number and page number visited. And you can increase this number by sending them remarketing ads that are targeted towards engagement, or sending email newsletters that keep them engaged and visiting contents on your website. Eventually, these people will want to convert. All those actions are designed to make them convert for the first time. You will need to probably do some remarketing ads for a coupon or anything that prompts their conversion, or a limited flash sale or anything like that to make them actually make that conversion for the first time from engagement. And then finally, we're not done yet. When they make their first purchase, we want them to come back and make more than one purchases. So that the steps we can take there include having a loyalty program, having some sort of customer relation management initiatives, anything as such to make customers who have already made their first purchase come back and make repeated purchases. And this, as I said before, consists probably 30 to 40% of your revenue if you're an e-commerce store. After covering different stages of the customer journey, let's now talk about how we can leverage those customer journey analysis and convert them into concrete action that can improve the bottom line for our business. We present with you a 6-step framework here that can help you take action based on customer journey analysis. Those steps are abstract intentionally, just because some of these steps are actually harder than it looks in terms of completing. And the Humanlytics product is entirely designed around this. And I can talk all day about how some of the steps might be difficult, but just give you an overview of how you can take action. So step 1 is map out all your customer journey with metrics, so they can be represented. So we presented with you the model of a 11-stage model that we just showed you before, but feel free to use your own model. It doesn't have to be the model we just showed you before. It could be any reasonable customer journey model. The key is to operationalize those models with metrics so you can keep track of those. And then after we have established a customer journey map, you want to identify the tipping point of your customer journey. The reason I'm saying tipping point here is because a customer journey is something we consider a system. So sometimes the decline in your overall conversion result might not be due to the conversion stage. It might be due to some earlier stages. It might be due to the decrease in overall sessions. It might be due to the decrease in engagement among your customers. So you want to find the tipping point that is causing the decline or the increase of your bottom line of your ultimate conversion, and then go to step 3, which is set a concrete actionable goal around improving that tipping point. By concrete actionable goals, I mean it have to be something like, I want to improve my valid sessions by 30% in 30 days. It had to be time bound. It had to have a concrete value around it. And then afterward, you have to come up with an action plan for it. So going back to the concept of improving valid sessions, there are 2 primary areas that we can improve on, right? So one is improving the overall number of traffics that is coming onto my website, improving an earlier stage. So I could do that by either adding a new channel that I have never explored before, or optimizing on the existing channel, so more of the traffic come to my website. Or it can work on the stage between visiting a website and conducting valid sessions by improving my landing page, by redesigning my landing page. So there's a lot of action you can take. The point here, the key here is to pick the few that you're comfortable doing and you're actually going to follow through, and be very conscious about the amount of resources and time you spend on it. And after you perform these actions, you want to be able to measure the impact of those actions. For some of the actions, you might see immediate outcome as you're performing the actions. But for some of the actions, the impact might come a week or 2 weeks or even a month after you've taken the actions. So one thing you need to be conscious here is you want to understand the feedback cycle here so you don't make decisions too rashly. And that entire step 3 and step 5 might be repeated multiple times until you either reach your goal or do not reach your goal at the end of the period that you set the goal for. And then on step 6, which comes to the last stage, is you want to run a retrospective on the goals. If you accomplished it, what did you do well? What was a primary factor that contributed to the accomplishment of the goal? If you didn't accomplish it, what are something that were beyond your expectation, that you expect to go a lot higher but ended up not doing it? And then based on the analysis of your retrospective, you might decide to, okay, we want to use this goal again for the next 30 days, or maybe have a different goal for this metric. Or if this area of your customer journey is already doing well after you have taken all these actions, you might want to shift your attention to another part of your customer journey. And then it goes back to number 2, and then the entire process repeats from number 2 to number 6, which makes it continuous. All right, so yeah, that's everything I have for you today in terms of improving your customer journey. I understand there's a lot of content I just threw at you. This video is also incredibly long. I wish I could explain a lot of these steps in further detail, but we already have a super long video here, and we might touch on each of these stages and each of these steps in the future of this video series, just to make sure that you can actually take action from what I've told you here. All right, so without further ado, next time we are actually going into Google Analytics to show you how to acquire these metrics and build a report for your customer journey. And then we are going to talk about each of these steps individually, starting from acquisition all the way until retention, and to show you actions you can take for these specific steps, and how do you figure out what is the best course of action for each of these steps when you're analyzing them. So yeah, I will see you guys next time.